Hey, welcome back to Pocket Roni. We're still factoring trinomials. The difference on these trinomials is that they will have a coefficient in front of your x squared term. Okay, so these will still factor into two binomials. Our signs are positive and positive. We are still in a positive world, which means that your signs in your binomials will still be positive. So now we have to look at, for the first term, we have to look at the factors of this first term. The factors of 3 are 3 and 1, and that's it. So we know that one of these will be a 3x and one will be a 1x. For the last terms of your binomial, you look at the factors of the last term of your trinomial. The only factors of 2 are 2 times 1. Even though we're in a positive world, now that we have different coefficients here, it does make a difference where you put your 2 and your 1. Okay? I don't have any quick tips or tricks. It's just trial and error. Okay? It's a matter of foiling it out and making sure that your answer checks back to this trinomial. Okay? When you FOIL, remember FOIL is first, outside, inside, last. For a reminder of FOILing, go see the multiplying binomials video. So when you FOIL this out, 3x times 1x is 3x squared. Outside terms, 3x times 2 is 6x. Inside terms, 1x times 1x is 1x, or 1 times 1x. Last terms, 1 times 2 is 2. And you can see that your inside terms, 6x plus 1x, does give you a 7x. So this is the correct answer. Okay? I am now going to work it the wrong way. If I was to replace my 2 and 1, if I was to put my 2 and 1 in the opposite spots, so you know that it does make a difference. Okay? So let's rework this. We knew that this was 3x and this was 1x. We're in a positive world. Okay? Before I had my 2 here and my 1 there. Now let's switch those places. And let's put my 1 here and my 2 here, so you can see that it will not work out to this original trinomial. Okay, 3x times x is 3x squared. A 3x times 1 is plus 3x. 2 times 1x is 2x. And 2 times 1 is still 2. Your middle terms, 3x plus 2x, gives you a 5x. That is not 7x. So it does make a difference where all of these numbers go. So FOIL it out and check your answer to make sure you get this original trinomial. Okay? Alright, now I'm down to 22a7. 2x squared plus 9x plus 10. Okay, this is going to factor into two binomials. I look at my signs, positive and positive. I'm in a positive world, so everything is positive. My first term comes from this first term of the trinomial. I look at the factors of 2x squared. Okay, the factors of 2 are 2 times 1. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the factors of 10. The factors of 10 are 10 times 1 and 5 times 2. Anytime I only have one set of factors, I do that one first. Okay, this coefficient gives me one set of factors. This whole number gives me two sets of factors. So I go to this one, and this is the one, I can only use that. So I start with that one. So that means that one of these will be a 2x and one is an x, because 2 times x gives me 2x squared. Okay, now I have to go and decide which of these factors from the 10 am I going to use, 10 times 1 or 5 times 2. Again, there's no quick tips or trick, it's just trial and error. Okay, but I can put a 10 here and a 1 here. You can already see that 2x times 10 is 20x. So that's way more than 9x. So you know that that's not going to work. So if I switch the places and put 1 here and 10 here. The outside-inside terms are what you will add together to get your middle term of the trinomial. Okay? 2x times 1 is 2x. 10 times x is 10x. So that would be a 2x and a 10x. Okay? 2x plus 10x. That does not give me my 9x. So those factors will not work. So therefore we know that's not going to work. So we know we have to use 5 and 2 We just need to know which order, which places it needs to go. It does matter where your 5 and 2 go. So let's just say 5 here, 2 here. My outside inside terms is what gives that middle term. So my outside would be 10x. My inside would be 2x. Is that going to give me my 9x? No. So therefore, let's switch the places. Put our 5 here and our 2 here. So our first term, 2x times x, is 2x squared. Outside, 2x times 2 is 4x. Inside terms, 5 times x, 5x. Outside last terms, 5 times 2 is 10. So this middle term, these middle terms does give me the 4x plus 5x is 9x. And this gives me back the original trinomial I had. Let's go to 22b, number 4. This will factor into two binomials. Positive, positive, which means I'm in a positive world. Let's look at the factors of 4. 4 times 1 and 2 times 2. Let's look at the factors of 3. 3 times 1. Since this is the one that only has one set of factors, I have no choice but to use 3 and 1. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in now. 3 and 1. Now let's go back to this first term. I'm either going to use a 4 and a 1 or a 2 and a 2. Okay? Again, there's no quick tips or tricks. Let's just try 2x and an x, or 2x times 2x, because that gives me 4x squared. And I'm trying to get my middle term to be 13x. So this gives me a 2x times 1 is 2x, a 3 times 2x, 6x. That does not give me 13x. So that's not going to work. There's no point in switching 2 and 2. 2 and 2 is the same thing. So we now know we need to use 4 and 1. We just need to get them in the right place. Okay? Let's say I put 4 here and 1 here. 4x times 1 is 4x. 3 times 1x is 3x. That does not give me 13x, so that's not going to work. So now let's switch the places of our coefficients. Let's use 1 and 4. So 1 times 1 is 1x. 3 times 4x is 12x. That will give me my 13x. So we can finish this out. 1x times 4x is 4x squared. And then the last term, 3 times 1 is 3. This shows that my 1x plus 12x does give me my 13x. So this is your answer. Let's jump down to 22b, 6. We have 3x squared plus 9x plus 6. This will factor into two binomials. Positive, positive means I'm in a positive world. Let's look at the factors of 3, or just 3 times 1. The factors of 6, 6 times 1, and 3 times 2. I'm going to start here because it only has one set of factors. That's the only set that I can use. So I know that one of these is a 3x and one is a 1x. Now let's look at the factors of 6 and 1, 3 and 2. Okay, I'm trying to get my middle term to be a 9x. So I'm going to have a 3 times something plus over here something times 1. Okay, so looking at this, I don't believe it's going to be or actually I do think it's going to be this. I think it's going to be 1 here, 6 here. Just to double check myself, this first term is going to be 3x squared. Then my outside, 3x times 1 is 3x. Inside, 6 times 1x is 6x. My last terms, 6 times 1 is 6. And my middle terms do give me a 9x. Again, if you pick the wrong ones, you'll know it when you go back to check yourself. I do recommend that you always check. Eventually, you will get to the point that you can just check in your head and not do it on paper. But for now, I always recommend checking it on paper just to make sure. Alright, let's look at 22a8. The one important thing when you're factoring trinomials, the first thing you should always do when you factor trinomials is to look to see if you can factor a greatest common factor out first. So if you look at 4, 10, and 4, is there a factor that they all have in common that you can factor out? Okay? Sure, you can factor a 4 out of a 4 and a 4 out of a 4, but 10 does not divide by 4 evenly. But they all can have a 2 pulled out of it. Okay, so you can pull out a 2 or factor out a 2 out of every one. So the first thing you always want to do is factor out a 2. What you do is you pull the 2 out to the front, and then you write, this is like reverse distribution, write what is left over. If you divided this by 2, what do you have left? You have 2x squared. If you divide 10 by 2, you would have a 5x. And if you divided 4 by 2, you would have 2. Basically, if you go back and distribute this 2, you should get this trinomial. 2 times 2x squared is 4x squared. 2 times 5x is 10x. And 2 times 2 is 4. Now we can factor this parentheses into two binomials. Still leave this 2 down in front. Do not forget to carry this 2 along. Now we can factor this into two binomials. The factors of 2 are only 2 and 1. So one of these will be a 2x, one will be an x. My signs are positive, so I'm in a positive world. The factors of 2 are only 2 and 1 as well. There's only one set of factors, but I've got to put them in the right place. Okay? So if I put a 1 here and a 2 here, ignore this 2 for a second to see if this binomial will give me this trinomial. This would be a 4x plus a 1x, and that does give me a 5x, so I stuck them in the right place to start with. Okay, so that is your final answer. To go back and check it, I always recommend multiplying these two binomials first. Ignore the 2 out in front. 2x times 2x, 2x squared. 2x times 2, 4x. Now your inside term, 1 times x, 1x. Your last terms, 2. Combining your x terms, you get 2x squared plus 5x plus 2. Now if you bring this 2 back down in front and multiply that and distribute it, you would get your original answer. And so since we got the original answer, that proves that what we boxed is the right answer. Okay, going down to 22b10. Again, anytime you're factoring trinomials, always look to see, can you factor something out first? You want to factor out the largest number possible. So looking at 5, 50, 105, the largest thing I can factor out of this first term is a 5. So then I see, okay, can I factor a 5 out of there? Does 50 divide by 5 evenly? Yes. Does 105 divide by 5 evenly? Yes. So that means I can factor out a 5. I pull my 5 out in front. I divide each term by 5 and write what's left. Dividing this by 5 leaves me an x squared. Dividing this by 5 leaves me 10x. Dividing this by 5 leaves me 21. If I go back and distribute this, I should get this original trinomial, and I do. So that means I factored that out right. So now I want to factor this trinomial into two binomials, leaving your 5 out in front. Do not forget that 5. My factors of x squared are x and x. I've got positive signs, so I'm in a positive world. Then I looked at my factors of 21. I have 21 and 1 and 7 times 3. If I use 7 and 3, those add up to 10, so that's the factors I want to use. Since there's no coefficients out here, it doesn't matter which place the 7 and 3 are in. If I cover this up and FOIL this back out, I would get 3x plus 7x, which is 10x. And I would get my x times x is x squared. My last term, 7 times 3 is 21. Then if I go back and distribute this, I would end up getting the original answer. So that is my final answer in factored form.